is our phone number. Let me switch gears a bit and talk about Detroit, because it's a good lead up into my guest that's coming on after the break to talk about Detroit. You know, the media talk about spin, right? Talk about what the left is doing, but they're actually trying to blame the problems in Detroit on small government, because government is now so small that it can't, run the police department. Half the traffic lights don't work. It's not because government is so small that they can't afford to operate the traffic lights. It's because it's so big. It's because the government is doing so many other things with the money that it doesn't have anything left over to run the traffic lights. So it's the opposite lesson. But you actually have MSNBC coming out and holding up Detroit as an example of the failure of small government, calling it the most libertarian city in America. No, it's not. They have high taxes, high regulation, a bloated bureaucracy. You know, you think about government as like a parasite, feeding off of a host. And if, in order for the parasite to survive, it can't kill the host. It can certainly slow the host down, right? The host body is not as vibrant and not as healthy because of the parasite. But as long as the parasite doesn't kill the host, then they can both live. Although the host would be better off without the parasite. The parasite, of course, needs the host to survive. That's what happens with America. The government is like a parasite attaching itself to the body of the economy. And as long as it's not too big, the economy can function. Not nearly as well as if the parasite wasn't there. It's not going to be as vibrant and as healthy, but at least it's going to be alive. The problem in Detroit is the parasite got so big it killed the host, but that's not a problem of having a parasite that's too small. It's having a parasite that's too big. And, of course, there are multiple parasites that were feeding off of the Detroit host, because you still had the federal government in there, you had the state government, but then you had the city government. And the city parasite got so big that the body died. But have a listen to the type of nonsense that you're hearing in the mainstream media. I mean, this is from MSNBC, if you want to consider MSNBC to be part of the mainstream. But have a listen to this, cut number 12.
While it suffered for years under mismanagement and corruption under many Democratic officials, today, Detroit is fast becoming the most libertarian city in the United States. In many areas, there are basically no public services besides decaying roads and bombed-out infrastructure. 40% of the streetlights don't work at night, and that leaves a troubled city stuck in the dark.
Because if you move to Detroit, they have one of the highest city taxes in the country. High property taxes, high business taxes. What's libertarian about that? You have a huge percentage of the population living on welfare. What's libertarian about that? You have the government is spending a fortune. It's just that they're spending so much on all these socialist programs that have failed that they have nothing left over. Libertarians are not against governments operating the streetlights. They're not against the government operating the police. But they're against all the other things that Detroit is doing instead of operating the police lights. If it really was a libertarian society, those street lights would be working. The police would be on the beat. It's because it's not libertarian. It's because it's socialist that they're bankrupt. And, you have them now, people saying, well, we should bail them out, because we bailed out other companies, as if 2 or 3 wrongs make a right. Here, listen to the case for a bailout. Cut number 14.
So what can Detroit do for its workers and the city's debt to these pension holders? Well, I think it's time to look to Washington. Yes, just like Republicans did in the 80s for Chrysler and Continental, or like Democrats did in the 90s for the investment firm Long-Term Capital Management, or like Republicans and Democrats did in the 2008 financial crisis for Bear Stearns and Wells Fargo and Bank of America and J.P. Morgan Chase and Citigroup and Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs and Bank of New York Mellon and, over 700 other banks.
Yeah. We shouldn't have bailed out any of those either. So because we made all these mistakes, now we have to repeat the mistake by bailing out Detroit. But it gets worse. You've got guys now on MSNBC saying that it's just like Hurricane Sandy, that they deserve a bailout because it's a natural disaster. Hear this, cut number 17.
My point is, our fellow citizens are hurting. There are a lot of things Congress can do. But if the largest local bankruptcy in our history isn't the right time for spending on emergency aid and jobs, When is the right time?
Yeah, you know, that wasn't the cut, and I don't have enough time. There's a hard break coming. I have another one where they specifically said that it's like Hurricane Sandy. No, it's not. First of all, it was a mistake to send aid to the victims of Hurricane Sandy. I'm against all federal disaster relief. It's all wrong. But to try to say that Detroit is just like people that were victimized by a hurricane, you know, unless you think that big government, liberalism, you know, the welfare state, labor unions, high taxes, high regulations are natural disasters. I mean, maybe if you want to redefine that, you know, as what we couldn't help ourselves, this is what democracy is a natural disaster. These were man-made disasters, and if you bail it out, you'll have more man-made disasters because you'll be sending a message to all the future Detroits, hey, you don't have to get your act together. Keep on spending money you don't have. Keep on making promises your taxpayers can't commit to. Because when you go bankrupt, the money's going to flow from Washington, and all the cities that didn't make mistakes are going to have to bail you out.